Hello guys, Felix here. So I received some ePaper displays from Elecrow. They sent me 6 boards for testing. So this is one of the boards. It is an ePaper display. So one of the good things about this is that it can still display information even when there is no power. For instance, this one right now is not connected to power, but you can see it's displaying some information. Another thing I love about these Elecrow boards is their casing. So they have this nice acrylic casing. I think it looks really good. It covers up the electronics very nicely. I'll take this one apart to see how it looks like. There you go. See how nice this is. It's a perfect fit. I don't think this will come off, but let me try. Yes. So this is a very nice design of casings. Alright, let me put this aside. So what we'll do is check one of these boards. We'll try and do some programming on it. So I have set up some code here. Just share that. Alright, so this is a basic test of LVGL 9. So one thing you need to configure is in the LVConf, since you're using a monochrome display, we set the color depth to 1. Then when you're configuring your buffer, ensure that it's divisible by 8, then add a padding of 8. This is necessary for LVGL. Also, when flashing the display, make sure to set the offset by 8. Here we'll just do a simple test to show this text. Meanwhile, we can plug in the display. This is a USB. Alright, we can upload the code. Okay, there we have it on our display. So this is the basic setup before going into any UI builds. You need to make sure that your LVGL is running on your display. The next thing you want to do is build the UI for the display. So in this project, I'm going to be building a Google Play apps stats monitor. So I have this dashboard that I use to monitor my apps on Google Play. So this is what it looks like. So some basic informations and the number of installs on each app. So we'll build a UI for this display so that we can get this information on our ePaper display. So we'll head over to SquareLine. We want to create a new project. Make sure to select LVGL 9.1 as the LVGL version. For the display resolution, we have 792 by 272. Set the color depth to 16-bit. This is the lowest you can go on SquareLine, but we'll change the settings in the exported code. Now create a name for your project and create the project. Alright, so since this is ePaper display, we want it to have a white background, so that's why it's set here to white. Now the next thing we'll do is create a panel to host the cards. So we'll have one big panel. I think we can remove the border for now, don't need that. Next thing is now creating a card. You want to put this inside the panel, so drag over it, then expand it. The next thing you want to put is some labels. You can create multiple of them, but make sure to put it inside the panel. So let's just rename this to our app card. Now in this card we want to flex the content, so we set here to flex, then set the flow to column, then we center everything. And the first thing will be our app name, so I'll just put a name here. You want to make it a bit larger. Okay, that's better. What we'll do is use pixels. So let's set that to 200. Yeah. Then you want to center the text and create a bottom border for it. Set this to 1. You only want the bottom side. Yeah, so that's how it will look like. For the card itself, I think we'll also put an outline. We set that to 1. Can do 2. Okay. Now the next thing we want to put is app version and the category. So we'll just put that v3.7.6 and health. Now we want to add this to, this is the daily rate. This is the number of installs. So let's just put a figure there. And we need to one more. So we want to make that a bit bigger. Go with 30. Same with this. Can do 20. This we can do 16. Let's do 18 for this. All right. Let's make the card 220. I think that's okay. Now for the outer card or the panel, I also want it to have flex so that we can arrange the 3 cards inside the flex. Now what we want to do is duplicate the card so that we see how it looks like. Now we want to align the cards. So we'll space, let's try space around. That looks better, I think. Yeah, maybe. Okay, then for this you want to remove the padding, but pad the top. think for the cards we can increase the size, maybe 230. Okay. Now let's add text at the bottom mid. So this will show the last time the screen was updated. So we just do last updated and the time. Okay, so this is the UI that you've come up with. So the next thing we'll do is export it. So before exporting, make sure to check the project settings. What you want to do is have LVGL.h in the include path and the files, UI files export path. So we'll set that to our project. So we'll create a new folder inside the source folder, name it UI, then select it, apply changes, then export the files. So once you export the files, we go back to our project, you will see that we have the files exported here. So the first thing we'll just do is run the test on the display without making any changes to the UI. So the first thing we need to do is add the path to the UI.h. So at the top here we'll include that. The next thing is comment out the label and call the UI init function. Now in your UI.c, because we set the color depth to 16 and we are using 1, so you need to comment out this. So we want to need this. And that's it. So we'll just run this on the display. Let's see how it looks like. So there we go. So you have a new UI on the display. So the next thing we want to do is make it dynamic. We want to fetch data from a server. So one thing you have set up is with this information you can get it from a GitHub page that I've set up. So basically what it does is there is a Python file that does the scraping. So it will get the information and put it in a console.json. So what we will want to do is fetch this information from this JSON file. So we will need the link address of this JSON file. So we can just do a test and see if we can access that. Yes. So what we want to do is in the ESP32 code, we need to add the Wi-Fi code and the code that will get the data from the server using HTTP. Okay, I think we already imported some of the libraries that we will need. That is the Arduino JSON and ESP32 time. For this GXCPD, this is the library for the ePaper display, and this is the LVGL library. So we'll set up Wi-Fi. So first thing you want to include the UI, the Wi-Fi library. Then we'll create a Wi-Fi multi object. Then in our setup, we'll add Wi-Fi that we can connect to. So I have this. Now the next thing you want to do is connect to the Wi-Fi. So we'll use a while loop to make sure that before we proceed with the UI, we need to make sure that we've connected to the Wi-Fi. Now the next thing after that is once we are connected to Wi-Fi, we need to fetch the information from the server using HTTP. So we'll just create a function to get the data. So here we'll pass a URL from the GitHub link. Next thing is to get the payload. Then with the Arduino JSON, we can create a global object to store our data. So we'll name it apps. So here I'm still using the version 6 of the Arduino JSON. So we'll pass the size of our object. Now after performing our HTTP request, if we get a success, we deserialize the payload to the apps object. This is the dynamic JSON document. Last thing should do is end it. So we have this function that will get the data that is complete. So you want to call it after the Wi-Fi has connected. Now the next thing is what we want to do in the UI files. Since we created so in the screens we created the cards that will show the information. So maybe what you want to do is create it dynamically. So one way of doing this is using a custom function to set that. So I'll just copy. Okay, let me just create some files first. So let's name it UI custom.h. Okay, this is not necessary, but if you don't want SquareLine to overwrite your code because we are modifying the code here to create new functions, you might want to do that in a separate file. But for now, we'll just use this C file. So we'll create a function that will add an app. So call it add app. Then you go over to our screen, copy the UI code. So this is the code that will create cards. Now what you want to do is pass the parameters, so like the app name, the version, the category, and the app installs. So we'll just create those parameters. All right. The next thing you want to do is add this function prototype in the UI.h. Right. All right, now back to our data. Since after calling this function, we'll get data from the endpoint, and we'll store it in the dynamic JSON document. So the next thing we want to do is use that data in the UI. So what we'll do is in the main panel. The main panel was display in our screen. That was UI panel 1. So since it has these cards that we placed there, we want to remove them in the code using the code. So what we'll do is after the UI init, we want to do LV clean, object clean, plus the UI panel. Now after we've cleaned that, we need to add our data. So we'll get the data from the apps. So we'll loop through the dynamic JSON document. Now what we'll need to do is call our function. This is the add app. So the first thing we need to pass is the name. So we'll get that from this object. So K. So app name was title. Okay, I think that's it. We can run our code again. So what we'll do is, instead of showing this static data, we'll fetch data from the endpoint and show it here. Alright, so we'll wait for our display to update. It first needs to connect to Wi-Fi, so I'll give it some time. And there we go. I think one of our cards was a bit smaller, but you can see that it got the data from the web, so you can confirm here. Yeah, so that's it basically. And the other thing we want to do is update the text down here, so we'll just go back to our code. So with that, we'll need to set the time from the internet. How we'll do that is we'll use a time server, which I've basically used. I have this set up, so I'll bring this function here. So this will get the time from this endpoint and set it to the ESP32. So we need to create our object there. Also, don't forget to add the include. So this value you're passing here is the GMT offset. So this is GMT plus 3. Now what we want to do is call that function, and do it here, get time. Now after that is done, here after the UI init, you want to create a string that will store that time. We'll call ESP32 time function that will give us the time, that is RTC get time date. Now the next thing we want to do is locate our label. So in the UI screen, there is label 16. You can just copy this code, come back to the main.cpp file, and replace that with tm. Then of course you need to convert it to C string. Next we'll upload the code. Alright, so there we have it. So this is the last update time. So the time now is you can see that time is 4:15. So the last update time was 4:15, 5 seconds. Now with the card sizing, maybe you want to increase the size of the title, so maybe we can just do that in the code, see how it goes. So in the UI.c, maybe you can increase the width to 250 and this to 240. And there we go. I think this looks better. So here you have the stats on the ePaper display. So that is as far as I can go in this project, but maybe what you want to consider is in the ePaper code, ePaper display code, that is the ESP32, you want to create a function that will update this information at least once daily. Then also in your GitHub repo, maybe you want to set up a workflow that will run this Python file once a day. This is to get the latest information by scraping the Google Play. So that's it for me. Until next time.